We've all been there. We've all had those days when it feels like we are talking a language the kids just don't understand. And you know you're on a slippery slope to chaos. They start talking, tapping pencils, swinging on chairs, and that horrid, uneasy feeling of losing control of the class starts to well up in you. If you've experienced this and you don't want to experience it again, or if you're new to TAing and just the thought of it freaks you out, keep watching. Hello, fabulous TAs. I'm Lauren Reesner. I was a TA one-to-one and HLTA for 20 years. I even did 6 weeks of teacher training, but I hated it. And now I create videos that answer all your TA questions. So if you want to learn more about being a TA, growing confidence, cope with interviews, and all types of other TA related stuff, start right now by subscribing. We've all had moments where it feels like no matter how hard we try, we just can't get through to our students. But what if the problem isn't about what we're teaching, but how the children are learning? That's where metacognition comes in. It's a fancy word, but all it really means is helping students understand how they learn best. When children know how to think about their own learning, they're more engaged, more focused, and more independent, leaving you with fewer of those chaotic moments and a whole lot more calm in the classroom. In this video, we're going to break down exactly what metacognition is, why it's important, and how you, as a teaching assistant, can run simple and effective metacognition interventions that will make a real difference for the children you support. So, what is metacognition? Metacognition is often called thinking about thinking. It's the process of understanding how we learn, recognizing what strategies work best, and knowing how to adjust those strategies when we face challenges. Because, in school, there is this kind of, unspoken belief that there is only one way to learn. And there isn't, there's lots of different ways, and we're all individuals. And to be honest, I didn't learn how I learned best until I did my degree. And that was when I was nearly 40. So that's a bit of a shame, really. Wasted years. If I'd understood more about how I learned best when I was at school, I probably would have done better. In fact, I would have done better. For teaching support staff, running metacognition interventions means helping students become more aware of their own learning processes. This awareness enables them to take control of their learning, improve their performance, and feel more confident tackling tricky tasks. And research has consistently shown that metacognition interventions are among the most effective ways to boost student achievement. By teaching students to think strategically and reflectively, we're giving them the tools they can use not just in school, but for life. So here's a story to illustrate how metacognition interventions work. Jacob and the tricky maths problem. Jacob was a lively Year 4 boy who loved football but found maths too hard. Whenever the class worked on tricky problems, Jacob would cross his arms and refuse to work. So his teacher asked the class TA, Mrs. Shah, to spend some time helping Jacob feel more confident. Mrs. Shah decided to use a simple metacognition strategy. One afternoon, she sat with Jacob and explained, Jacob, solving problems is like playing football. You need a game plan. You need to check how it's going while you're playing. And at the end, you look back to see what worked and what you could do better. Let's try that with this maths problem. She called it the 3 steps to success: plan, check, and improve. Step 1. Plan. Mrs. Shah showed Jacob a question about dividing apples equally between friends. She asked, "What's the first thing you notice about this question?" Jacob reluctantly looked and shrugged. "How many apples are there?" said Mrs. Shah. Jacob counted. 20, he said. And how many friends? Asked Mrs. Shah. Oh, that's easy, Jacob said. 4. Well done, Jacob. What do you think you need to do first? Jacob hesitated, then said, divide 20 by 4. Brilliant, exclaimed Mrs. Shah. Let's write it down as your plan. Step 1, divide 20 by 4. What else do we need to do so we know we're doing the right thing? Check if the answer makes sense, Jacob replied. Mrs. Shah smiled. Excellent idea. Let's add that as step 2. Step 2, check. As Jacob worked through the problem, Mrs. Shah encouraged him to think out loud. What are you doing now, Jacob? Well, I divided 20 by 4 and it's 5. And how can you check if you are right? Asked Mrs. Shah. Work out if 5 times 4 equals 20. That's really smart. Does it work? Yeah, it does. Mrs. Shah nodded. See, you're already using your plan to check your answer. This is how we make sure we're on track. Step 3, improve. After solving the problem, Mrs. Shah asked Jacob to reflect. What worked really well today, Jacob? Jacob thought for a moment. Writing the steps down helped me remember what to do. That's great. What a brilliant takeaway. What could you do even better next time? Jacob grinned. Maybe write my plan faster so I don't waste time. Mrs. Shah praised him. That's an excellent idea. The more you practice this, the faster you'll get. Over the next few weeks, Jacob began using the 3 steps to success in his maths lessons without needing too much help. He still had struggles, but Jacob's teacher was sufficiently impressed with his change in attitude towards his work that she asked Mrs. Shah to work with more children to help them understand how they learn, recognise what strategies work best, and know how to adjust those strategies when they are faced with challenges. So in this video, you've learnt what metacognition is and how a simple approach like plan, check and improve can change how students approach their learning. Jacob's story shows how small supportive steps can give children the confidence to tackle tricky tasks. And an extra tip is that you can reinforce metacognitive skills by using everyday examples. For instance, compare planning a task to packing for a trip. What do you need first? How do you know you've packed everything? Relating learning to real-life activities makes it more engaging and memorable for students. Metacognition isn't just about learning, it's about empowering students to believe they can learn. Now, if metacognition interventions sound interesting to you and you'd like to know more, I do have a free PDF that will give you what you need to kickstart your own sessions. Inside you will find links to resources that will give you all the information you need and information about identifying the intervention group's purpose, selecting students for the group, planning the structure of the sessions, and more. If you'd like the free PDF, put free PDF please in the comments below and I'll give you the link. Now the thing is, this has been a quick video, so I've given you a very, very sort of simplistic view of metacognition. So I really do suggest that you have a look at that free PDF and find out more about it because, as I say, the research really shows that it does help your students. And you will find more problem-solving videos here.